So one of these dogs is ketosis, and one of them is fasting. See, very, very similar, yet at the same time, quite different. So what I want to do in this video is I want to help you understand why keto and fasting, not in the case of dogs, but in nutritional protocols, work so well together. You see, a lot of people get confused because I talk about ketosis in a lot of videos, and then I talk about fasting in a lot of videos. I have a ketosis protocol, and then I have a fasting protocol. But the fact is, they're two very different things, but they have very similar energy systems that are being utilized in the body. And when they work together, they can be very effective at burning fat. So I'm going to give you some analogies. I'm going to help you understand the process. Okay, you see, it comes down to the fact that fasting is utilizing ketone bodies too. You see, the whole idea with fasting is we're trying to get our body to a point in which it has no choice but to create ketones from our stored body fat. You see, we're no longer eating, so that means our body takes our body fat and takes those fatty acids and turns them into ketones. It's a pretty cool thing. So by default, when fasting, we are in ketosis, okay? So then with ketosis, we are mimicking fasting. That's what's going on. We are mimicking fasting so that we still have the desired outcome of ketones, but we're doing it with calories present by simply removing glucose or carbohydrates. So that's the common denominator. That's how we end up finding that ketosis and fasting have the same common denominator, the same underlying factor that we're looking for the most success possible when it comes down to fatty acid utilization, ketone production, and overall feeling really good. You see, fasting has additional benefits that go in a different direction. Benefits like autophagy, where our cells are recycling, and other benefits that are going to help your mental acuity, but a lot of them come back to those ketones again. Whereas ketosis has its whole separate myriad of benefits. Massive amounts of ketone bodies that we are essentially artificially encouraging the creation of by copious amounts of fat being added into the diet. So you see, we're still trying to get the same end result. Fasting can be a little bit expedited because, of course, you don't have calories coming in. So in traditional thermodynamics, calories in versus calories out plus ketone utilization, you're going to burn more fat simply because your body's using it from your stored body fat tissue versus creating it from food. But this is to clear up a lot of confusion, okay? Now we have to talk about how they work so well together, okay? Because this is really, really cool. Let's say, for example, you go on a ketogenic diet. You start eating high-fat foods, low carbohydrate, moderate protein. Okay, you're generating a lot of ketones. You're cranking in ketosis. You're kicking butt. You're taking names, and you feel great. Okay, the next logical evolution within this process is to start sprinkling fasting into the mix. And this is exactly why fasting should be used intermittently, periods of time throughout the week. Now, hear me out on this. You're already in ketosis. You're producing ketones. You feel great. Okay, so your body is using the fats from the food you eat for ketones right now. Then, tomorrow, you decide to fast. So you decide to no longer eat that day, but your body is now so preconditioned to utilizing fats because you've been in ketosis that it goes ahead and it starts taking fat more rapidly from your stored body fat because it's already primed to do so. Now, I've talked about in other videos the whole priming of the pump, similar to like a lawnmower, right? If you've ever had a lawnmower or a two-stroke motor, a weed eater, a go-kart, anything like that, you know that you have to prime it. So like if it's been sitting for a while, you hit that little primer button, you press it a few times, you get the fuel into the lines, and then you pull it and you start the motor, okay? That's essentially what's happening when you're on a ketogenic diet and you're priming your body with higher amounts of fat. You have now primed the body to utilize fat. So now what happens once it's using fat and you now deprive yourself of dietary fat? The body starts rampantly looking around saying, where's this fat that I'm so accustomed to? So it freaks out and it has no choice but to go to its next source of fat, which is your body fat, no matter how lean you are, unless you're at 0%, then you have a problem. Okay, so that's the whole premise behind linking ketosis and fasting. Now, if you were to fast every single day in conjunction with ketosis, eventually your calories would shrink so much that you probably wouldn't be able to get all the phytonutrients, all the macronutrients that you truly need to sustain good quality life. So that's why you want to be doing a ketogenic diet with sprinkles of fasting here and there. Now, some will say, Thomas, I've seen some of your programs, and your fasting programs don't really utilize ketosis, but your ketosis programs don't utilize fasting. Well, that's because they're two totally separate programs, but later on can be layered into each other. So I want to make sure that there's no more confusion as to why I talk about each respective diet differently, but still interlace them from time to time. Because at the end of the day, ketosis was born from fasting. All we are doing with ketosis is trying to elicit the same metabolic effect that we would get from fasting, but without fasting. So let's not turn a blind eye to fasting when we're doing ketosis, and let's not turn a blind eye to ketosis when we're doing fasting, because it'd be rather hypocritical since we're after the same thing, right? So I hope that this clears up that confusion, and now you have an understanding of how you may want to do that. So I do recommend that you start with 3 days per week of intermittent fasting, whether you're in ketosis or not, and slowly increase from there to a point that feels really good. And if you start getting cold hands, cold feet consistently, that's a good indicator that you probably need to shrink down the days that you're fasting. That is sort of your body's thermometer, and it's going to be your litmus test for if you're going too far.